great war comes as we know it must. And the government says it's time for every citizen to go and fight to the death.
Hey, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk. Got the replay of the week here. Replay sent in by Ares 1967 from the Flava clan, one of those two. He's in his T67. Tier 5 American TD. MIT turret, which is always good for a TD. We'll get started here. He's counting in and off he goes. So he has loaded into Sand River, which is pretty good for TDs, especially these turreted ones, in a standard configuration for the game as far as not being assault. And he is headed off to the southwest. So when you load in on this map with a TD and a turret like he's got, you've got two, maybe three choices. One choice I do not recommend, but the two major ones are headed here to the southwest. The other major one is up here to the northeast, typically up in this pass here, potentially working in this area, or further back, as this is a T67 and has virtually no armor. Once spotted, it gets shredded pretty badly. But if you can play the vision game with it, it's a beast. Obviously top tier, so he should have a good day. In theory, the other team has a couple extra heavies. There are some already on the board, so that is something to watch out for, and then he nearly tips over. And everyone's more or less spreading around. Oh, the third option. The third option is to do what about 1/5 of his team is doing, camp the cap. That's the one I don't recommend. The thing about it is someone's always going to camp the cap. Just don't make it you. Somebody on your team is going to sit there. They don't need an extra one. Now he's going to spin his tank around here. And he's putting his rear there because he's probably thinking if I get spotted I'm going to run away quickly. It's not a bad idea, but he is going to run in. I might have taken that shot. He is going to run into a little bit of an issue here with his depression. So now he's got to back his entire tank up and over the corner here. But he is using the vision game, so he's staying at the edge of their view, as far as he knows anyway. Just realize there are still a lot of tanks on the board and one could sneak up and see you. So as you're sitting there backwards like that, now that you have, he's in sniper so I can't get out. As you can see there, he's sitting up there, and if he gets whacked, could go badly for him. There's a nice shot there. A little more lead would have probably got that shot. So this is something I noticed you do, and I'll point it out a couple more times. You will, as tanks are moving, you will point the reticle or the cursor, however you want to call it, right on the tank and sort of follow it, as opposed to try to lead the tank a little bit so that when you reload you've got that lead fire already set in and you're not jerking around trying to get a shot or shooting at a tank directly and missing him because you didn't have any lead fire. Another thing you do then is, I see quite a bit, is you're zoomed in a lot. Now this guy deserves it because you should get quick shots. And that's one of the nice things about the T67, it fires so fast. But you'll zoom in and kind of get staring through the soda straw on guys and not zoom out and look around, especially if you don't quite have the shot yet. You'll continue to wait for them to try to get out in the way of your shot. And this is something I notice with intermediate players quite a bit. Maybe shoot that building. There you go. Not sure if you intended it, but you got it. Now one thing you also have to watch out for with this tank, it has a relatively small ammo loadout, and you will notice in this game that becomes an actual issue. So when I first watched this on the run through, I said, man, you should be shooting down a lot more buildings. There's a couple times when you should have shot guys, but ultimately I thought it was probably not a bad idea considering what happens at the end. Still, consider that when you've got tanks and a bunch of buddies up here, especially if you're all shooting into those buildings a couple times, you can really knock down that cover and just start taking guys out, which he learned. All right, we've got kind of a decision point coming up right here. This turret takes forever. That's another sort of weakness of the T67. The turret is very slow. We'll watch him take on these guys for a minute. And I said there's a bit of a turning point coming here in this battle. You have really wrecked all of those guys that went down into the town over there. So it was a very foolish move. This ends up being a great game. Great games typically have compliant enemies that help you get that great game. Not to reduce anything from the game, but I think we all know that. And it's what you do with the opportunities you're given, which you've done really well so far. So back to the decision point. You have one down here. You've wrecked all these, I won't call them names, guys coming through the town here for some bizarre reason. And you look up into the northeast, and you still got a couple tanks working there. The 1S is there. The T1 Heavy is over here. That's their 2 Heavy. So there are TDs scattered about in this area over here, hiding at their cap or maybe over here in the corner, potentially pushing up on this back side. Although the KV-1 KV-1S should have seen those guys if they were actually up on top, obviously. So the question now becomes, what do you do? Let's see what he does. The other thing you've got to watch is, what is your team doing? Let me show you what he's doing. His team is pushing into a bunch of TDs on cap. Probably not the brightest idea. There's a Lukes over there. There's another example of what I'm talking about where you'll stare in one direction. I'd have zoomed out and moved my camera, locked my turret forward, moved my camera, and kind of look at the Lukes. Even though he's outside your draw distance, you may know exactly where he is based on the terrain and take a blind shot into him. Low percentage shot, I'm not saying you would have done that, but at least look over there and see what's going on. You can also gain SA on what your friends are doing. Now this guy is going to come up, gets popped. Nice job. And you don't quite have that shot. Yeah, I probably would have taken that too. Once you got spotted, I'd have just backed out of there immediately. If he pops up and snaps one off. And I like this idea. You're going to reposition. So you do need to clean up this T1 Heavy, and that's where I talked about the whole decision point. So I think this is a great idea. And this is another example of not really looking at your work right here. You come across here looking to reposition, but you're not paying attention to what's going on over here. This Su-85 is about to dive in, or he's got this T1 pretty heavy. If you'd have just zoomed out like this while driving and looked at it and go, okay, let's see, can I get up on top of that sand ridge right there and take this guy out? Because there goes your Su-85, which you may have noticed right there based on your camera angle. Man, I'd have gone right down there and helped him, either charged in there so that you can take that T1 Heavy out, or got up on top of that sand berm and looked for a shot. Because the problem here is you're going to end up losing some guys. Lukes is raging around. Yep, here comes their Stuart. So there's a guy in there. Alright, so he's dead. Alright, so you clean up the T1, and now you're going to go right back. Okay, so you're heading right back to your spot. This was probably a time to get back to cap, start working that ridge up there, and look for that KV-1S. Try to get out that M3 if you can, and start working on this north flank that has collapsed. And you sort of run away and leave those two guys stuck in that pit. And there's this KV-1S, dude. And you just drive right up this hill. I'd have turned around, got my turret turning. He's right outside of being able to see you. Keep moving, but look at him, get your turret pointed at him so that when you get up to the top where you're going and he keeps coming, then you can start waylaying him. You see how this is your view, you're just going straight up. Finally turn around, and probably a couple shots left on the board right there. Could have been already taken. There's another example. You did actually lead that guy, but you zoomed in so much you didn't see him turn. And that's another problem I see people do, is they'll zoom in so far, they have a hard time reacting to the movements of the tank, the enemy tank. And that's a thing I'll use with myself as a defender, and you're zinging in there. I don't know if you've seen good players. They will often not drive in a straight line in a situation like that where they're moving through open terrain. Yeah, I think you had an opportunity to finish that guy off. Again, not really looking at where he is. There you go. And he's blind as a bat, doesn't see you. Okay, yep, get off the hill, that's fine. Alright, so another decision point. There's 3 of you, 5 of them. Obviously, you know most of them are camping down here. All you've got left is a Valentine. More than likely not going to survive very long. And there's your Lukes over here and the Stuart. So which one can you help first? Yep, that guy. That guy needs help. You need to get rid of that M3 Stuart. You sort of just leave the Lukes on his own. Dare I say you told him good Lukes. Oh, wait a minute, we changed our mind. And he dies. So a little bit of indecision. There's the Stug running through the buildings. Would have been a fleeting shot. I might have taken that, but now you can tell that we're at 11 shots. So most of the times where I said I may have taken that shot, with hindsight being 20/20, those probably were not great ideas. Now, if it was in your mind that I know this tank doesn't have a lot of ammo, so I'm not going to take those shots, then good on you. And now we're down to 1. Well, folks, what do you think is going to happen? We got 1 Ares 1967 and a full hit point T67. And we've got 5 enemy tanks, 3 TDs, an Arty, and a Scout. This seems like a recipe for disaster for Ares to me. He's going to head on down this way. So So this was an interesting decision for me that you made, because you sort of camped, and I call it camped, but you really hung around the same place for most of the game. Now there's that guy right there. Another example of I'd be driving forward but looking backwards with the camera, and I'd let my turret spin backwards so that if I saw an opportunity to take a shot, maybe he starts moving and I'm able to stop, or maybe I get to a ridge where I can just have a little bit of myself exposed and take a shot at him, but this whole way you just run away. And it works, so that's good. I can't say too much about it getting out of the way and that whole thing working. In addition, you have a guy on the cap, so you are charging towards there to take care of that. Back to the interesting decision. You knew there were still a couple guys up north, and so 2 were up north and 3 were probably down the south. I might have gone this way to begin with and try to clean up again the northern flank. These guys are just blind, so you really run into a situation where it absolutely helps you that what's left is relatively blind, especially as compared to you and Binocs if you can get those going. Holy cow, there's another one of them. Interesting that that scout went over there. I'd have stopped sooner to kill him. You maybe would have eaten both those shots. He's going to fix his ammo rack, and then we're going to have the... Oh my gosh, what's he doing? Holy cow. Ram kill T-67 for the 7th kill. And I think that was basically all you had. You had to kill him fast. You couldn't let him shoot you again. And you didn't want the Artie to get a chance. So that was good stuff right there, man. All right, another blind guy sitting on the cap. Oh my gosh, tracks. No. So just a bad aim, obviously. I think you realize you're aiming at the wrong spot. You probably thought, man, I got to get these shots off because he's going to see me. Well, folks, here we are. 8 kills, 2,509 hit points. And I'm going to chipmunk speed it here a bit because he comes all the way around this way. Not a bad decision. You've got five minutes. Now let's go down to real time. Oh, I'm just going to screw it up. All right. Okay, so now we're coming in here, and the 2 ways to approach this thing would have been through the south, which the Hardy knew he's been working around this area the whole time, and probably that's the one he would expect him, at least if he came directly at him, to come down. The other way is the way he's coming from the north here. The 3rd way obviously is up through the middle, or this ramp, or in this area here. I like this area in this situation because he's more than likely either staring down this way or staring down this way. It's unlikely that he's in some position to really see a lot of this area right here. Possible, but unlikely. So of the 3 possibilities, this one seems like the easiest way to approach, but that's what I would have done right there. Let's see what ends up happening. He's going to come in here towards the cap, and he's going to make a decision I don't like at all. And this is pretty typical. So there's a little discussion here. They're talking about why you capping, I think, on the chat. I may have missed it already, or maybe he typed something in here. But so what does the artillery know about Aries right now? He knows exactly where he is. So any element of real surprise is gone. He knows he's in that area, and now he can adjust for wherever he has been staring down and has a better idea of which way to look. So Aries probably just reduced, at least for the immediate moment, the Artie's worry about what direction he's coming from by about 50%, more than likely. Now, the longer time goes on with a fast tank like a T-67, he's got to become more concerned because the ability to reposition and move around, and that's just a time, speed type of idea. So he comes off the cap, which I agree with. He's still got 3 minutes. But he needs to do something fast because somewhere around 2 minutes he needs to be back on the cap if he's going to try to do it that way. Oh, there he is. And another blind guy is going to end up helping him out. He backs up, which is nice. Taking very careful aim because he has 5 shots left. Guy must see him, and there it goes. So nice job, man. Holy cow. 9 kills, 2,719 damage. Overall, pretty nice work. Dealing with a ridiculous rush up the middle that you crushed. Cleaning up your cap, although I would have myself liked to have seen you clean this up a little bit more, a little bit faster. You did have full hit points. Obviously this thing doesn't have a lot of hit points, but you had a little bit towards the end to give if you needed to. But as it was, very cagey, moved around as required, And then that nice little scrum right there was nicely done as far as killing off, being aggressive and killing them off quickly so they already couldn't hurt you. And then the big end run right around here, taking that guy out. You know, biggest mistakes for you would be maybe hanging around here just a little bit longer and not helping your buddies up here. That's the big thing. The decision to come down this way instead of clean up the cap would be the second one, and the third one was getting on cap. But it's hard to argue with 9 kills. Koblanovs, nice job. Replay of the week. If you like what you see, guys, go ahead and sub, and we will catch you guys later.